Have you ever been treated like a guest in your own home? Imagine spending 32 years building a life, paying every mortgage bill, fixing every broken pipe, planting every flower in the yard, only to discover that the people you love most have already decided you're no longer in charge. They thought they could bubble in charge. They thought they could push her aside. They thought they could take over her house. They thought she would stay quiet. Instead, she changed the locks, and what happened next left the entire family stunned. This is the true story of a woman from South Carolina who lost her husband, nearly lost her home, and then taught everyone a lesson they would never forget. My name is Evelyn Carter, and until 3 years ago, I thought I had the kind of family people envied. I lived in Charleston, South Carolina, in the same beautiful white house my husband and I bought shortly after our wedding. The house wasn't fancy when we purchased it. Back then it was old, creaky, and desperately needed repairs. But Richard and I built it into something special. Every room carried a memory: the kitchen where we danced while cooking dinner, the porch where we drank coffee every morning, the backyard where our son Tyler learned to throw a baseball. For over 3 decades, that house wasn't just property. It was our life. Then Richard died, cancer. 6 terrible months that felt like 6 years. I still remember holding his hand in the hospital during his final night. His voice was weak, his breathing was shallow, yet somehow he squeezed my hand and whispered words I would never forget. "Don't let anyone take what we built." At the time, I thought he was talking about memories. I had no idea he was warning me about the future. The first year after his death was lonely. The silence in the house felt unbearable. Every room reminded me of what I had lost. That's when Tyler started visiting more often. At first, I was grateful. He brought his wife, Amanda, and their 2 children. The house felt alive again. Laughter returned. Noise returned. Family dinners returned. For the first time since Richard died, I didn't feel completely alone. Then Amanda made a suggestion. "Why don't we move in for a while?" she asked one evening. "We can help you." The idea seemed reasonable. They claimed housing prices were high. They said they could save money. Most importantly, they insisted they wanted to support me. I wanted to believe them. So I said yes. That decision changed everything. The first month felt wonderful. The grandchildren filled the house with energy. Tyler helped with yard work. Amanda cooked dinner occasionally. I thought I had made the right choice. Then little things started happening. Amanda began rearranging furniture without asking. At first it seemed harmless. A chair moved here, a table moved there. But gradually she treated every room as if it belonged to her. One afternoon I came home from grocery shopping and couldn't find my favorite armchair. The chair Richard bought me on our 20th anniversary. The chair where I spent countless evenings reading books. Amanda had moved it into the garage. "The living room looks cleaner without it," she said casually. Cleaner, as if 30 years of memories were clutter. I swallowed my frustration. I told myself it wasn't worth arguing about. But the incidents continued. My photographs disappeared from shelves. Family decorations vanished. Amanda replaced them with modern artwork and expensive-looking accessories. Slowly, my home stopped looking like my home. And Tyler? He never said a word. Whenever I brought up concerns, he smiled awkwardly and changed the subject. The man who once ran to me with scraped knees now acted like he was afraid to challenge his wife. Months passed. Then came the conversation that changed everything. It happened during Sunday dinner. The grandchildren were upstairs. Amanda looked across the table and smiled. Not a warm smile, not a friendly smile. The kind of smile people wear when they've already made a decision for you. "Evelyn," she said, "we've been thinking." My stomach tightened instantly. Whenever someone starts a sentence that way, trouble usually follows. Tyler stared down at his plate. Amanda continued. "This house is honestly too much responsibility for someone your age." "Someone your age?" I was 64, not 94. I remained silent. She leaned forward. "We think it would make more sense if you moved into a retirement community." For a moment, I thought I had misunderstood. Then she continued speaking. "The kids need stability. Tyler and I need room to grow. It just seems practical. Practical, the word hit harder than an insult. This wasn't concern. This wasn't kindness. This was a plan. A plan they had clearly discussed many times. And Tyler sat there saying nothing. I looked directly at my son. Is this what you want? His eyes avoided mine. We're just trying to think about the future. The future, apparently, my future had been decided without me. That night I couldn't sleep. I sat on the porch for hours staring into darkness, the same porch where Richard and I had spent countless evenings together. His final words echoed through my mind. Don't let anyone take what we built. For the first time, I understood exactly what he meant. Over the following weeks, Amanda became bolder. She started referring to certain rooms as our spaces. She talked about renovation projects. She even met with a realtor friend who visited the house twice. When I asked why a realtor needed to see my home, Amanda laughed. We're just exploring options. Exploring options? For whose house? Mine. Every day the message became clearer. They weren't waiting for me to leave. They expected me to leave. One afternoon, I overheard a conversation that changed everything. I had returned home earlier than expected after a doctor's appointment. Amanda didn't know I was inside. She was speaking on the phone in the kitchen. Her voice drifted down the hallway. Evelyn won't fight it. She laughed. Trust me, she'll eventually give in. My heart stopped, then came the sentence I will never forget. Once the house is officially ours, we'll remodel everything. Officially ours, not if when. The arrogance was breathtaking. I stood frozen in the hallway. Years of grief, months of frustration, countless moments of disrespect, all crashing together at once, and suddenly something inside me changed. The sadness disappeared, the guilt disappeared, the fear disappeared. For the first time since Richard died, I felt angry, not explosive anger, not reckless anger, the kind of calm anger that creates action. The next morning, I called an attorney, then a financial advisor, then a locksmith. Because if Amanda and Tyler believed they were taking over my house, they were about to discover just how wrong they were. And they wouldn't see it coming. Not even close. The attorney's office sat in a quiet brick building just outside downtown Charleston. I arrived carrying a folder filled with documents, mortgage records, property taxes, insurance paperwork, everything connected to the house Richard and I had built together. The attorney, a sharp woman named Karen Mitchell, reviewed every page carefully. After nearly an hour, she looked up and smiled. Evelyn, this house is entirely yours. I nodded. I thought so. She shook her head. No, you don't understand. There is absolutely no legal pathway for anyone else to claim ownership unless you voluntarily transfer it. For the first time in months, I felt relief. Real relief. The kind that settles deep in your chest. Then Karen asked a question. Why are you here today? I hesitated. Then I told her everything. Amanda's comments. The pressure, the conversations, the retirement community suggestions, the realtor visits. The phone call I overheard. Karen listened silently. When I finished, she folded her hands. They're treating your kindness like weakness. The sentence hit hard because it was true. I had spent my entire life trying to keep peace, trying to avoid conflict, trying to put family first. And in return, my own family had begun acting as though I were an obstacle standing in the way of their plans. Karen gave me several recommendations, SEAL recommendations, SMART recommendations, recommendations designed to protect me. When I left her office, I felt stronger than I had in years. The next stop was the bank. Then came several phone calls, then meetings, then paperwork, quiet moves, strategic moves. The kind people don't notice until it's too late. Meanwhile, life inside the house continued. Amanda grew increasingly comfortable. She hosted gatherings without asking. I invited friends over, made plans for renovations. Sometimes she discussed changes to the property right in front of me, as if I were already gone. One evening, I walked into the kitchen and found blueprints spread across the table, kitchen redesign concepts, new flooring, wall removals, a complete transformation. Amanda looked excited. We're thinking about opening this wall. I stared at her. We? She smiled. Well, eventually, that word again. I simply folded the blueprints and handed them back. Then I walked away. The less I argued, the more confident she became. What Amanda didn't realize was that silence doesn't always mean surrender. Sometimes silence means preparation. 2 weeks later, I made another discovery. A disturbing one. The grandchildren accidentally revealed it. I was helping them with homework when my grandson casually said something strange. "Daddy says we'll have bigger bedrooms after Grandma moves out." The room suddenly felt colder. "What do you mean?" I asked. He shrugged. "Daddy said this room will be mine." I looked around. We were sitting in my sewing room. The room Richard had converted for me years earlier. The room filled with memories. According to my grandson, plans had already been made. Not hopes, not possibilities. Plans. That night I sat alone in my bedroom. I didn't cry. I didn't panic. Instead, I opened a notebook and I started writing every incident, every conversation, every comment, every date, every detail. The list became surprisingly long. By midnight, 3 pages were filled. By 1 in the morning, 5 pages. Looking at those pages changed something inside me. For months, I had convinced myself I was overreacting. Now the evidence sat directly in front of me. I wasn't imagining anything. The takeover had already begun. The only question was whether I would allow it to continue. The answer was no. 3 days later, another opportunity appeared. Amanda announced a family vacation. A 5-day trip to Florida. Everyone was going. Tyler, Amanda, the children, they seemed excited. Amanda spent days discussing hotels and activities. I smiled politely. Inside, another plan was forming. The morning they left, Amanda hugged the children goodbye and loaded luggage into the SUV. Tyler waved. "See you next week, Mom." I smiled. "Have a wonderful trip." Then I stood on the porch and watched them disappear down the street. The moment their vehicle vanished, I walked back inside. The house was quiet, peaceful. For the first time in over a year, it felt like mine again. I called the locksmith. An hour later, he arrived, a professional, efficient, friendly. Within 90 minutes, every exterior lock had been replaced. Front door, back door, garage entry, side entrance, every single one. Then I changed security codes, garage access, alarm systems, digital entries, everything. Next came the spare keys. I collected every extra key I could find. Then I sat at the kitchen table and stared at them. The symbolism felt powerful. For months, I had allowed other people unrestricted access to my life. Now that access was ending, but changing locks wasn't enough. I spent the next several days packing, not my belongings. Theirs, every item was organized carefully. Clothes, electronics, toys, furniture, everything they owned, nothing damaged, nothing discarded. Everything packed respectfully and professionally. I rented a climate-controlled storage unit nearby, a large one, then movers transferred every item, room by room, box by box. By the 4th day, the house looked exactly as it had before they arrived. My photographs returned. My decorations returned. Richard's favorite chair returned to its original place. The transformation felt emotional, like recovering a piece of myself. Standing in the living room, I almost expected Richard to walk through the front door. For the first time in years, the house felt alive again. Then came the letter, a carefully written letter, not angry, not cruel, just clear, very clear. I explained that their living arrangement had ended. I explained that future visits would require invitation. I explained that their belongings were safe and secure. I included the storage unit information, the access code, the payment receipt, everything, no surprises, no confusion, just boundaries, healthy boundaries, the kind I should have established months earlier. Then I waited. 5 days later, the phone rang. Amanda. I ignored it. The phone rang again, and again, and again. 23 missed calls before noon, then Tyler called, then Amanda again. Then text messages started arriving, dozens of them. Confused, angry, demanding. I read every message calmly. Apparently they had returned from Florida and discovered they couldn't enter the house. Apparently they were shocked. Apparently they believed there had been some kind of misunderstanding. There wasn't. Finally, I answered Tyler's call. His voice exploded through the speaker. Mom, what is going on? I remained calm. I ended the arrangement. You can't do that. The irony almost made me laugh. I looked around the living room, my living room, inside my house, the house I owned, and my son was telling me what I couldn't do. Actually, I replied quietly, I can. Silence. Then Amanda grabbed the phone. She sounded furious. Evelyn, this is unbelievable. No, I said. What was unbelievable was listening to you plan my future while sitting in my own kitchen. More silence, heavy silence. The kind that appears when someone realizes they've been caught. Amanda recovered quickly. You're overreacting. No. I looked at Richard's photograph on the fireplace. For the first time, I'm reacting appropriately. The call ended badly, very badly. But I didn't care, because for the first time in over a year, I was no longer defending my home. I had already taken it back. What happened next would divide the entire family. Some relatives called me heartless, others called me brave. But none of them knew the full truth, not yet, because within days, a secret would emerge that would leave Tyler and Amanda completely speechless. And when that secret came out, their entire plan collapsed.